Welcome to Roots and Rest, a place of deep relaxation, rooted in nature. This evening, our story is The Rain That Stayed a While. So settle in, get comfortable, and let your body relax. The rain had been falling since before anyone noticed. Not heavy, not loud, just a steady drifting down through the tall trees, threading its way through branches, touching leaf after leaf, as though it had all the time in the world. In the woodland, paths had grown darker with it. The earth drank slowly, roots reaching deeper, taking in what they needed without hurry. And along one of those winding paths walked a boy named Lyndon. His coat was the colour of bark, his hood pulled just far enough forward to keep the rain from his eyes. He had not meant to be out for long. At least that's what he told himself when he first stepped beneath the trees. But sometimes a walk stretches. Sometimes a thought takes longer to settle. Sometimes the quiet calls you further than you expected to go. Lyndon paused beneath an old oak, its branches wide and steady, each leaf holding a bead of rain that trembled before letting go. He listened. Rain on leaves, rain on earth, rain somewhere far off, moving slowly through the rest of the forest. It was the kind of sound that didn't ask anything of you, just stayed. Lyndon took a breath, for he hadn't realised he'd been holding one. Then another. His shoulders lowered, just a little. "I'll go a bit further," he said quietly. And so he did. The path curved, as woodland paths often do, never quite in a straight line, as if it preferred wandering to arriving. Water gathered in small pools along the way, reflecting pieces of sky between the branches. Lyndon stepped carefully, boots finding dry places where they could, though sometimes the ground gave way. He didn't mind. Not really. There was something about the rain that made mistakes feel smaller. A misstep was just a ripple in the water, nothing more. Up ahead, a narrow stream crossed the path, its usual trickle now fuller, moving with a gentle purpose. Lyndon stopped again. He watched the water for a moment. It didn't rush. It didn't stop. It simply continued, weaving around stones, carrying leaves along its surface, finding its way without needing to think about it. "I wish I could do that," he murmured. The stream didn't answer, of course, but it didn't need to, because standing there, watching it, something shifted. Lyndon stepped forward, placed one foot carefully on a flat stone, then the next. Not perfectly, not without a slight wobble, but he crossed. One step, then another. On the other side he paused just for a moment, not to rest, just to notice. The rain carried on. It tapped gently on the hood of his coat now, a quiet rhythm that matched the pace of his steps. He didn't walk faster. There was no reason to. The trees here were closer together, their trunks darkened by the damp. Moss clung at their bases, bright and alive, drinking in the rain as though it had been waiting. Lyndon reached out, brushing his fingers lightly along the green. It was cool, grounded, certain. "You've been here a long time," he said. The moss didn't move, didn't respond, but it didn't need to rush either. It grew where it was, slowly, patiently, taking what came. Lyndon let his hand fall back to his side. Something about that stayed with him. Further along, the path narrowed until it was barely more than a suggestion. Rain gathered on low branches, slipping off in quiet drops as Lyndon passed beneath. At one point, he stopped altogether. Not because he was lost, not quite, but because the way forward wasn't clear in the way paths sometimes are. He looked ahead, then down, then back the way he had come. The rain continued, steady as ever, as if to say that time was still moving, whether he chose to or not. Lyndon shifted his weight. He could turn back. That would be easy enough. Familiar. Safe. Or he could take a step forward, not knowing exactly where it would lead. He stood there for a while, long enough to hear the deeper sounds beneath the rain. The quiet creak of branches, the distant call of something unseen, the slow breath of the forest itself. Then, without deciding in any grand way, he moved. One step forward. Just one. The ground held, so he took another. And as he walked, something else became clear. The rain hadn't changed. The forest hadn't changed. But the way he moved through it had. His steps were slower now. Not hesitant, just deliberate. Each one placed with care, not because he was afraid of falling, but because there was no need to hurry past anything. A fallen branch became something to step over thoughtfully. A puddle became something to walk through and listen to. A bend in the path became something to follow, not question. Lyndon felt it in his chest, a loosening. Not all at once, but just enough to notice. Eventually, the trees began to thin, gradually as though the forest was opening its hands. The rain softened too, each drop spaced a little further apart, until there was less of falling, more of a drifting. Ahead, a clearing waited. Lyndon stepped into it without thinking. Grass bent under the rain, shimmering faintly in the dim light. The sky above was a pale, shifting grey, clouds moving slowly, as if they too had nowhere urgent to be. In the centre of the clearing stood a single stone, flat, worn smooth, kind of place someone might sit. And so he did. Lyndon lowered himself onto it, hands resting loosely in his lap. For a while he did nothing. He didn't plan where to go next. He didn't replay where he had been. He simply sat, listening as the rain finished its long, patient journey through the trees, drip by drip, leaf by leaf, until even that grew quiet. Time passed. It always does. But it didn't feel like it was slipping away. It felt like it was settling. Lyndon took a breath, then another. And as he sat there, something simple became clear. He hadn't needed to know the whole path. He hadn't needed to solve anything all at once. He had crossed the stream, one step at a time, followed the path one turn at a time, stayed where he needed to stay, moved when he was ready to move, and somehow, without forcing it, it arrived somewhere gentler than where it began. Not a final place, just a quieter one. After a while he stood. The rain had almost stopped now, leaving only the faintest mist hanging in the air. The path onward was there, just visible beyond the clearing. So was the path back. Lyndon looked at both. Then, with a small, steady breath, he chose. Not because it was the perfect direction, just because it was the next one. And that was enough. He stepped forward. One step, then another. The forest received him again, just as it had before. Patient, unhurried, ready to hold each step as it came. And somewhere behind him, unseen but certain, the rain rested quietly in the roots, waiting for the next time it would be needed. Now it's time for you to rest too. Good night.